Hi, I'm Gary Bembridge and this is another of my tips for travellers. I'm going to share with you my favourite tricks, tips and hacks that I use to get better fares, a better cruising experience, better excursions and overall just a better time cruising. The first of these is sign up for the cruise line newsletters. This might sound a really simple and basic one. However, if there's certain cruise lines that you are fans of, I strongly recommend you sign up for those newsletters. That's where they push out if they're doing any special deals, free upgrades or free drinks packages or gratuities thrown in or solo traveler deals. So you get alerted when there's any special promotions. I always make sure that I'm signed up to any of the cruise lines who I think I may want to cruise with or have enjoyed cruising with, so I am alerted when there are great deals and offers. My second tip is to use a cruise agent. So even if you've signed up for the newsletters, it doesn't necessarily mean to book direct. Not only can they help guide you and make sure that you're going on the right cruise line or you've got the right cabin or the right deal at that time, they will always be able to match, and often you'll find they can beat those incredible offers. So even if you've seen a great offer on the email newsletters that you've signed up for, often the cruise agent will be able to improve on that. Or it may be as simple as they actually have an inside track to get you an even better cabin for the same price, which has happened to me. Cruise agents are really, really important to the cruise lines. It's where most of their business comes from. So they work really closely with travel agents and cruise agents to make sure that they have incentives and offers that will be a really big plus for travelers. Even though I have done 67 cruises at the time of recording this, I still use a cruise agent when I go cruising. My third tip and trick is around cabins. How do you get a great cabin? So there's two ways of approaching this. First of all, if you want to get the best deal, go for a guaranteed cabin. However, you have no say on where that cabin is going to be. So a guaranteed fare basically means that you choose whether you want an inside cabin, ocean view, balcony or a suite. It's normally a lower price and the cruise line decides exactly which cabin you're going to have, and you normally only know that really close to the cruise and you have no say over that. The second thing, which is what I actually prefer and I really recommend you think about, is actually go for a fare where you pay a slight premium and you can choose a very specific cabin. And a couple of key things. First of all, focus midships. That's where you're going to have the least amount of movement. Then, absolutely critical, when you look at the deck plan and choose a cabin, make sure you're surrounded on all sides by other cabins. So a cabin above you, below you, to the left and to the right of you, and ideally opposite you as well. So that makes sure that you're away from any of those things that could be creating a lot of noise. Also, make sure, unless you need it, that you don't have an interconnecting door to the next cabin, because that can also be where you can get a lot of noise and sound and disruption from. My next tip may not sound very exciting, and it may sound like you're just spending more money, and that is you should really get travel insurance. And when you get travel insurance, make sure that it also covers cruises. A lot of travel insurance companies have very specific insurance policies for cruising because there are quite a lot of costs involved potentially if you have to be medevaced off a ship. Bear in mind, if you do fall ill, you obviously have the onboard costs. It's quite expensive to use the medical center on board. If you have something more significant, the cruise line will offload you in a port and pretty much leave you to your own devices. So you eventually have to think about how do you get home, all those medical costs. And it could be many, many thousands of dollars. Don't take it out just before you go on the cruise. Take it out at the time of booking your cruise. And that's really important because then if you have to cancel your cruise, you're not going to lose your deposit. When you pay a deposit on a cruise, pretty much every cruise line, it's non-refundable. So if you cancel your cruise before you go, you lose your deposit. Travel insurance should cover you for that. My next tip is make sure that you get to the port where you're joining a cruise the day before the cruise. Don't aim to arrive the day that your cruise departs. Anything could disrupt your travel. If you miss the cruise leaving, it's going to be at your own cost and stress and hassle to join the ship later on. My next trick is around excursions. If you go on excursions through the cruise line, it could add a huge amount of money onto your cruise fare. So what I like to do is look at alternatives. Most cruise lines will have port guides. They might have a library which have travel guides in. A lot of them will give talks which often are trying to sell excursions, but will often give you a lot of tips and advice around the port themselves. Many cruise lines bring on board representatives from the port When you get off a ship, many ports nowadays will have representatives from the tourist board or even just different tour guides offering alternatives. One of the things I really recommend you do is take a look at that and plan to do self-touring. One of the great things is hop-on, hop-off buses. These are really popular with cruise passengers. I love them, and they're a really inexpensive way of seeing a place and getting around because you'll have commentary on board. You will find that many of those hop-on, hop-off buses nowadays will start and you can get off at the actual port, so you're right by the ship. It's a really inexpensive way of seeing a particular port. If you are one of those people that does prefer to go on a more organized excursion, obviously look at the cruise excursions, but then compare them to independent providers. There's lots of companies have set up. They then offer excursions in every single port. You'll normally find they're very similar to the ones the cruise line are doing. Some are even the same as the cruise line are doing. They'll often be smaller groups and they will be cheaper. The reason that most passengers like to do the cruise line excursion is the cruise line guarantees that any of their excursions running late or there's problems, the ship will wait until all of their excursions are back on board before they depart. If you're an independent traveler or going with one of those independent providers, they do not have that guarantee. So a lot of people do, of course, prefer to go with the cruise line. So if you're kind of a more nervous traveler and you want that reassurance, then stick with the cruise line excursions because it's going to give you that reassurance. But seriously, do take a look at some of those alternatives. It could save you a lot of money and you could actually see more and different things. The next thing I'd like to talk about is a couple of tips around packing. First of all, look at the dress code. What do you absolutely have to wear to meals, particularly dinner? And make sure you bring those because you don't want to find that you can't go to the dining rooms you want to go to because you don't have the right dress code. Linked to that, also have a look if there's any themed parties, white nights, scarlet nights, 70s nights that you want to bring some gear with so that you can actually get into the whole spirit of those. Think about the excursions you're going on, thirdly, and are you going to need any specific equipment? If you're going cycling, hiking. When you're packing, anything that's valuable, anything that you'd hate to lose, put in your carry-on. Obviously, obvious things like passport, money, credit cards, but if you've got expensive cameras, medications, make sure that those are in your carry-on. Another really important thing that I recommend you pack is your own little personalized first aid kit. And in here, put all the little treatments that you use around the home to deal with anything from headaches, stomach upsets. Take a look in your bathroom cabinet and bring a little personalized kit because it can be very expensive if you have to go to the medical center on board to get it. It can be quite difficult to navigate the pharmacy with different brand names and products and language. Also in that kit, make sure you bring a tooth repair kit. Cruise ships do not have dentists, and bring them a little tooth repair kit so if you have a filling fall out or a crown come off, you can deal with that to either tide you over to the next port or even for the whole cruise. The last thing on packing is make sure you bring the right adapters and all the chargers for all your gear. Luckily, most cruise ships now have USB chargers, but not all of them. Some of them have US style plugs, some have Euro style plugs. So check what your cruise ship has and make sure you brought the right adapters. Next, I have a couple of tips around saving money on board. First of all, check what allowance you have for bringing on board alcohol, soft drinks, whatever, and consider bringing that on board because that's going to obviously save you money when it comes to drink. Secondly, when you embark the ship, there will be loads of offers going. The spa, the drinks packages, the dining packages, excursions. You'll find there are loads of offers. You'll find incredible packages, particularly on Wi-Fi as well. If you are planning to do shopping on board in any of the shops, wait till the very end of the cruise before you do that because you'll find that there's often discounts or special days, particularly based on how cruise lines are hitting or not hitting their targets for that particular cruise. So always shop towards the end of the cruise on board. If you want to use the spa, use it on port days. You'll again find the cheapest time to use the spa is on port days. A couple of easy tips to save some money when you're on board. If you want to avoid putting on a lot of weight on a cruise, there's a couple of things you can do that will mean that you can still party, have a great time. First of all, use the stairs, not the lifts and elevators. Also means you're not waiting around. A lot of the ships are really huge and you'll burn a lot of calories just walking around the ship and using the stairs. Secondly, most cruise lines will have a spa menu, and take a look at the spa menu because you'll often find you can have a starter, main course and dessert, and you can have great food, but it's not going to have huge amounts of calories. The third thing is look at some of the excursions which have perhaps more exercise involved, even if it's more walking, hiking, cycling. Those sort of activities, again, you're going to see the sights, have a great time, but you are, again, going to be burning calories. consider really carefully if you want to take the drinks package. Drinks packages are relatively expensive and they enable you to have a lot of drink. And of course, there's a lot of calories packed in drinks, particularly cocktails. You'll find if you do a couple of those things, you'll come back from the cruise not only having had a great time, but also not having to go on that post-vacation diet to try and shift all those pounds. Hope you found those helpful. I have loads more videos with loads of cruising tips and advice. I'd love you to watch those right now.